Fred here, welcome back to the Gear Obsession channel. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at the SOG SlimJim. I'm going to classify this blade as a utility knife, although it can obviously be used for all different types of uses. As a matter of fact, one of the things that really got my attention on this particular knife is that it almost looks like something that you would get issued to from the military. So I just like the way it looks, and that's really the reason why I bought it. I was looking in the case at Walmart, and here this knife was, and I really wasn't going to buy it at all, and the reviews are sort of very mixed, so I passed it up quite a few times, and I finally decided, well, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do my own review on this knife. Now, there are anyway, there are a lot of variants of this knife. Obviously, this is the Tano blade. They also have a clip point blade. They also have a hard case black finish on some of the knives, and they also have a extra large version, which is about an inch longer than this one. This is a 3.18 inch blade. They also make the extra large version, which is 4.18 inches. This particular knife, just a hair over $45 on Amazon, which is cheaper than what I paid for in Walmart. So I recommend you just go ahead and pick it up at Amazon. I made it easy for you. All you gotta do is click the links below. I provided for this specific Tano blade, and then also a link to a listing of all the other SlimJims that show up in a search if you were to go to Amazon. So let's go ahead and take a close look at this knife. So again, I classify this as a utility knife. It's very minimalistic. It is very thin. That's the huge selling factor of this knife. It is very thin and very light. How thin is it? It's 3/16 of an inch thin. That's not including the clip here. That is an extremely thin knife. The rest of the specifications are overall length when open is 7.4 inches. When closed is 4.22 inches. The thickness again is 3/16 of an inch, and weight is a very light 2.4 ounces. This is a very, very good knife as far as dimensions are concerned for an everyday carry. Again, very cool looking knife. You see the SOG emblem is cut out of the 420 steel that makes up this handle. It's a folded piece of steel. You can see how it's round there. So this is one piece of steel that's sort of bent around, and then they stick the blade in between and stick the pivot screw through it in its most simplest description. However, this is also an assisted opener. I'll go ahead and do that right now. Right there. And it is a lock back as far as its lock is concerned. You just press right up here and it unlocks. The 420 stainless steel handle is bead blasted and finished, and again there is a black version of this. You can see there's a clip here. This clip is a deep conceal carry type of clip. You can see how that comes all the way up. It is reversible. Just remove those two screws and take out the I guess the nuts on the other side there and just sort of swap. So this is a truly ambidextrous knife. You can see here you have the stepped thumb studs right there on both sides. Now, other features here before we open this knife or deploy it is you have a safety right there. So you could slide the safety, and it sort of slides in just a little bit underneath that lock. You got to press down on this lock back here. So if you were to have this open, I'll go ahead and open it now. If you were to take that safety and push it underneath the lock there, you can't press it, so it cannot inadvertently open. On the other hand, if this knife is closed and you have this here and then you go to try to deploy it, it's also locked. This happened to me inadvertently. This slipped. So I know there are several reviews that I've read online where people just remove that because they don't like it. It's also hard to see. It's not red or any other color. It's also like a flat finish, so it sort of blends into the knife, so it might be kind of hard to find until you're used to where all the controls are on this knife. Let's go ahead and open this up. The blade is a 3.18 inch Tonto blade. I would almost consider this a modified Tonto. You have a this is just a normal flat edge. There's no serrations or anything. There is a sharpening choil right there, and I like that because when you're sharpening this on the stone, you don't have to worry about hitting the shoulder or the neck or the top of the blade right here on the edge of the stone. It is a hollow grind, and it goes about 2/3 up. You have a flat area here left, so if you have the type of sharpening device that clamps onto your blade, you don't have to worry about it sort of shifting back and forth. It'll get a good grip on there. The steel used on this blade is AS 8, and it has an HRC of 56 to 58. It is a satin finish, sort of brushed up and down. You can see there. You also could see this little retention divot right there. So when you fold this knife, that divot, where is it? Where'd that divot go? It's hiding right there. Goes underneath this ball bearing right here. So that's what this is in the knife. So when you push that in, it's being held in. It's also being held in by the torsion bar, whatever they call it. SOG has to do assisted opening, but essentially there's a bar in there, and when you push this blade in, that bar is getting pushed in, and the rest of the back of this blade here will get held in because that bar comes in and it's pressing, and it's actually pushing. At some point, it's pushing the blade in the most simplest description I could give. But when you deploy it, when you push it, when it gets out to about 20-25 degrees, actually right about there, that torsion bar is going to push out about that far, and then momentum will carry it out the rest of the way. So, but here's the thing: if you hold it nice and tight, if you hold it nice and tight and give it a little bit of a push, it'll open every single time. But as you can see right there, if you hold it just the slightest bit loose, sometimes it might not open up. And this is a side effect of it being extremely light, so you have to support. Same thing happens with a gun. When you're shooting a gun, especially a light, very small gun, if you limp wrist it, you're not providing any resistance for that slide to come back on, and it's going to push the frame, and then it's not going to have enough motion to cycle the next round. Sort of the same thing I think is going on here. So you got to make sure you're holding it tight and not letting that handle move, so that momentum can carry it past where it needs to lock. See that? Now the locking, it doesn't give a nice hard click. It's sort of just I don't know. It's not the most assuring lockup right there. There you go. That sounded just a little bit better. Again, it is a lock back right there. And I'm going to go ahead and start going into a couple of criticisms here. The lock. This is a one-handed opening, so if a knife is one-handed opening, I tend to also like them to be one-handed closing. So to close most lockbacks, I usually push right here on the lock. You can see the unlocking, and I'm pushing as far as it can go, and guess what? It's still not going. You have to break it. Even though you have this button pushed all the way in, it's still holding it. So this is actually a hazard for someone like me who likes to close their lockbacks with one hand and sort of nudge it. Okay, and you can see, well, luckily I didn't cut myself. It sure felt like it. If this knife was sharpened, I think I would have another cut, because I've already cut myself once with this knife. Anyway, other things I had to do out of the box, I had to tighten this screw up a little bit because there was like space right there, so I went ahead and tightened that up a little bit. Oh, there you go. See that? Bleeding. Great. Okay, so I just proved how bad this trying to open this up one-handed is concerned, so I'll take that as a lessons learned right here. Other things. Well, the only other note here as far as specifications I have, besides drawing blood, is that it is made in Taiwan. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a break for a second, sort of wait till I stop bleeding to finish this review. I'm still bleeding just a little bit, so you just have to put up with it. I'm sorry. So anyway, let's go over a couple of other things. Torque screw, right there. Torque screw for the pivot. I did tighten this up also a little bit. There was a slight bit of side-to-side blade play. Now there is not. Let's go ahead and see how blade centering is. You can see there, blade centering is just a little bit off. It's not rubbing against anything, but it is a little bit toward that side right there. As far as retention is concerned, okay, well, I just pulled that out just a bit. I mean, it's not going to come out by itself, but it's so gritty. Maybe I did tighten it up just a little bit. I don't know. But it's not smooth. And I did oil this to try to smooth it out. I actually had this at work today, and I let several people try it out, and they were surprised at how gritty it was, especially when you got to this point here where it's pushing up against the lock bar. So it's not a smooth knife, despite what SOG says in their description. There is, I'm going to cut myself again on this, Lord. Up and down play, there's just a little bit, very typical of your lock backs, because the back of the blade there's pushing up against the lock, and the lock just moves a little bit, but it's nothing to be concerned about. Side to side, since I adjusted the pivot screw, there is no side to side play. For the love of Pete, stop bleeding. I can see it now in the description below. You made the knife yours, because I get that every time I do a knife review and I cut myself. This is not the first time, by the way. Jimping. There is some nice, very functional jimping. If my camera were to focus, this is like amateur hour. Focus. Thank you. Alright, you got some jimping right up here. Very functional jimping, by the way. You can see how it's holding my thumb there. Very good. You also have a little bit of jimping right here. That's not as aggressive, which is a good thing, because if you're really starting to use the knife, you don't want it really to be too aggressive. It's just aggressive enough. You also have this right here, this guard, finger guard, to keep your hand from sliding up on the knife and cutting you. So at least there's one thing you can do with this knife without it cutting your knife. So let's see, what other things do I normally do? We do the cut test, and we already know it's sharp enough to cut skin. Let's see how it does there. Alright, so we're basically just about push cutting right there. I'm going to go ahead and try this at a different angle, and real good. Now, on the edge up here, I want to show you something. I'm going to run my thumb right, maybe this side? Yeah, right there. You see that? There's a little bit of a lip where I guess the point is slightly rolled to this side, because I can get my fingernail to stick right there. You see that? You can hear it? So that's not normal. Obviously you could sharpen that out. See, that's where I cut myself on this knife before when I was trying to adjust it. This is a very long, skinny knife. When you deploy it, you don't really realize how far it's going. Now that was obviously my mistake, that cut. This cut was also my mistake, because I knew that this knife did what it did beforehand, but at least I was able to actually show you in real life what could happen if you try to open this one-handed, if you're the type of person that opens up lockbacks or closes lockbacks the same way that I normally do. So use two hands if you get this knife. Break it, push the button, break it, fold it with two hands, and only open it up with one hand. Guess what? I almost forgot to do the stab test. Right there. A lot of people ask, oh my god, why is he doing that? You're not supposed to do that with a knife. Well, my channel, my knife. What I do is I usually stab this saw piece of pine right here and rock the knife back and forth as if I were like foraging and picking things out. I'm not abusing this knife. This is very soft pine. I could actually put an indent in this with my fingernail right there, okay? So, and I'm not, you know, whatever. So, alright, so let's take a look at the point, and you can see that it did fine. It didn't break the tip. Have I ever had a knife break doing this simple test? Yes, I did. It was a Bear Grylls knife. And I don't have anything against Bear Grylls or his products. I just happen to have one knife of his go bad. It could have been a bad knife, or it was just very thin. This blade is very, very thin, and especially this tip, even though it's a Tano. If you abused it, you know, like what I'm doing, but on a hard piece of wood, it probably would break the little bit of the tip there, because it does get pretty thin here on the edge. This isn't a pure Tano. I would consider this almost like a modified Tano. What did you just say? Your knife doesn't do all these bad things? Well, I mean, all I could do is review the example that I have, and actually I've had 2 others in my hand, and they all sort of felt and acted the same way. So really, I'm going by mostly this example, but I've also played with 2 others. So this is my opinion, my samples. Your mileage can vary, and there's also different variants of this that maybe act different. And maybe at some point in time in the future, they'll have a different version where they'll improve upon it. So I can only go by the example that I have in front of me. Now, I did write some pros and cons here. I did state that this is made in Taiwan. One other thing, lanyard hole. It is kind of small. I don't think you're going to get 550 through that little teeny hole there. Alright, pros. It's very thin. The materials are really good. I mean, for $420 for the handle and $8 for the steel, for the price, it's priced right for the materials. It also looks awesome, which is the reason why I bought this. I mean, this for me, if everything was perfect with this knife, or just you know, I was able to close with one hand and it didn't cut me all the time and things like that, this would be a knife that I would carry around with me a lot, because it's so thin, so light, you don't even know it's in your pocket. I don't care if it gets scratched up, because it looks like a utility knife, and extra scratches and everything would just make it look better in my eyes. Cons, you can't close it one-handed, obviously. This lock inadvertently locked on me, so when I went to open it, I couldn't, and I had to slide that little thing back. That's hard to see. I know other people have actually taken that off, so that doesn't happen. Some parts are finished rough, especially I guess the part of the blade that's pushing up on the lock bar as it's coming up to lock. Gritty, very, very gritty, not smooth at all. And I even put oil on and played with it for a day. I'm probably going to have to play with it a lot longer to get things smoothed out, or I would have to disassemble it and just sort of put it on the buffing wheel and smooth things out, which I might do, because I want to see if I can fix that locking issue. And it's expensive. This knife is $45. As a matter of fact, I paid $47 at Walmart. I don't feel, for the quality, fit, and finish and everything, that it's really worth it. But I just dig the looks of this knife so much that I just finally had to get it. And I'm going to just try to fix it on my own. If you're still interested in this knife, or if you know somebody who has this that's not having these problems, it could be worth it in your eyes. So go ahead and get it. I made life easy. I put some links below. So I hope you found this amusing, this review, and this is my honest review. And I know whenever I say anything bad about a knife, because I really don't do too many bad reviews, a lot of people get hurt, because this might be their one and only knife, and they will defend it to their death. And you know, that's just the nature. And then when you start collecting a whole bunch of knives, you're gonna have ones you don't like and ones you like, and then you'll start. I don't want to use the word maturing, but you'll start understanding that some knives are just not as good as others, and even just because you own it doesn't make it the best knife in the world. But if one of my friends asked me, hey, should I buy this knife, I'd probably tell them no, unless they were getting a really good deal and they understood all the shortcomings of this knife. Alright, well, thank you very much for joining me here at the Gear Obsession channel. I really do appreciate every friend, viewer, subscriber, and especially you. And I'm going to go get some Band-Aids. Take care. Have a great day. Bye.